Mr. Hollywood and the sensational newsman, with their official narratives and yellow journalism, the stereotypes they've created haunt these hills like a ghost, cheating, exploiting, extracting, and robbing the area of its beautiful nuance and complexity. Who are the Appalachian people? Who's a real Appalachian? Does it have something to do with your accent? Perhaps it depends on how long your family has been in the region. Or is it how much sugar you put on your cornbread? Maybe it's a purely geographical designation. Or if your family lives below the poverty line. Hi, I'm Josh, and welcome to Mountain Roots. This is the 37th episode of my Exploring Appalachia series. This episode is born out of and in response to the many questions regarding who are the Appalachian people. As someone whose roots run deep in central Appalachia, I find it a near obligation and worthwhile endeavor to investigate this matter and share what I find with you as I continue producing this series. I see this question come up quite often in online groups and forums. For some reason, there seems to be a significant divide on what it means to be Appalachian or from Appalachia, or to be able to claim Appalachian heritage. Staunch gatekeepers will let you know in no uncertain terms what it is to be a true Appalachian, but oftentimes it's seen as a caricature of a weather-worn individual in tattered clothing, cooking up some illicit corn beverage on the backside of a mountain holler somewhere. At least that's what I think many people may have in mind when they conjure up visions of Appalachia and what it means to be from this region. Appalachia, as a geocultural division in the United States, spans more than a dozen of those states from Mississippi to New York, where you'll find the footprint of the Appalachian Mountains. Folks will pronounce it as Appalachia or Appalachia, depending on where they're from. I hear Appalachia used from about the West Virginia-Kentucky border southward, and Appalachia further north. It really is dialectically based on where a person is from, but I've heard exceptions to this going in both directions. You may be surprised to learn that nearly 30 million people inhabit this greater Appalachia region today. That's roughly 10% of the entire U.S. population. Yet, only a quarter of Appalachian counties are technically classified as rural and are home to roughly 10% of all people living in Appalachia, meaning only 3 million Appalachians live in rural communities. Most of the greater Appalachia region is comprised of urban towns and cities that were large manufacturing hubs in their day and a significant part of their story. So even though your ancestors may have grown up in a holler back in the mountains, this isn't the only reality experienced by most who grew up in Appalachia. Although mountain cabins and rural self-reliant living are admirable to romanticize, this isn't the only way Appalachians have lived. Dwight Yoakam's song Readin', Writin', Route 23 describes what's known as the Hillbilly Highway that went through Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Ohio, and led an entire generation of Appalachians to work in places like Detroit and Chicago from the 1930s through the 1960s. This has prompted many discussions about the brain drain, wherein Appalachia specifically provided the labor to fuel northern manufacturing and mills and the mass production of goods, which is a contributing factor to the disproportionate connection so many people today have with Appalachia. An extraordinarily high percentage of the U.S. population has some degree of ancestry from this region, either from the recent or distant past, possessing both direct and indirect ties here, more so than any other region in the United States. Considering Appalachia has been the butt of so many jokes, it's surprising to see just how many people now live here. Appalachians are one of the most negatively perceived and maligned groups in the United States. Oftentimes portrayed as backwards, uncivilized, and prejudiced, however, their often misunderstood history and culture are inextricably linked to that of the entire continent. In fact, there was a movement in 1839 to rename America Appalachia. It was proposed by Washington Irving and Edgar Allan Poe, but you likely haven't heard of this because the idea died out by the time of the Civil War. Speaking of war, Appalachia has served as the cultural and even economic backbone of the United States from the Revolutionary War to the Industrial Revolution, and has always been greatly overrepresented militarily in nearly every war since. Appalachia was once viewed as the western frontier due to the rugged and nearly impassable mountain country. Perhaps echoes from this time persist in the modern mind, and the culture that some picture of Appalachia is more in line with what's presented in the Foxfire series of books, like the old ways of living and knowledge once widely held, like planning by the signs of the zodiac and stages of the moon, superstitions, home remedies, distilling moonshine, building log cabins, and living a completely self-reliant life back in the holler. Or even the culture and people described by Horace Kephart in his older books like Our Southern Highlanders, in the central to south central region of Appalachia, which loosely corresponds to southwest Virginia and East Tennessee and Kentucky. And in this sense, there is quite a distinct culture and heritage to what it means to be Appalachian. This area is home to a culture and a dialect not seen anywhere else on the continent. Despite arising from a vast tapestry of different cultures and people, many who most closely align or self-identify as Appalachian today will largely do so in conjunction with this central or south-central region of Appalachia. Although stereotypes, caricatures, and yellow journalism have sought to belittle and downright mock the people of this region, it possesses one of the richest English heritages in the entire English-speaking world. As I've shared before, Appalachia has an ancient and unique history. The earliest Appalachians weren't white Europeans, but rather an early people living here thousands of years ago, and they also weren't Native Americans. But if not Native Americans, who were they? I know there's incredible interest in the work I'm doing. If you want to also support and help keep me on the road producing this series, there are several ways you can help. Watching, commenting on, and sharing the episodes is always a great starting place. You can also become a channel member on YouTube for as little as $1 a month. There's also the Super Thanks option on YouTube beneath any video that you watch so that you can donate as much as you like. Facebook has also started a similar feature to the Super Thanks called Stars. 100 stars equals $1 and can be donated on videos you watch there. You can also become a monthly patron on Patreon. I have a variety of membership levels set up there, and starting now for the new year, I have a new Riding Shotgun membership level for only $2.99 a month. I do my best to provide extra perks to those who are able to support me financially as channel members or patrons. Thanks again for all your interest and support in Appalachia, its many incredible places, fascinating people, and their remarkable stories. This is all something I think is worth sharing.